This T1 drama situation just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Obviously, fresh off a world championship, T1 and their fans were at all-time highs. They were buzzing. Things were all great over in the T1 camp. And going into the offseason, the organization and fans were both very, very hopeful that they'd be able to bring back this historic lineup, and they almost did it. They were so close, bringing back 4 out of 5 pieces, but obviously since then there's been a little bit of trouble in paradise, some finger pointing, some he said, she said allegations, all different kinds of stuff going on. And since we last checked in on this story and made a video about it, there's actually been statements now from T1 CEO Joe Marsh and also from Zeus's kind of team and side as well. So I want to go over all the new details and all the new things that are being said to catch you guys up. So Joe Marsh did this AMA over on FM Korea. He says, "Thank you to all the fans for unwavering support of T1, especially after our victory at Worlds. Your enthusiasm and generosity, particularly through your purchase of our Worlds merchandise," funny that just talking about like merch sales, "been deeply appreciated and have played a vital role in helping us retain the majority of this roster as we prepare for the upcoming season. To provide some context regarding the timing of this AMA, on October 2nd, they reached out with the opportunity to host an AMA. At that time, I declined because our primary focus was on Worlds, but I was committed to revisiting the idea once Stove League concluded, or like I guess the off season or whatever. I'm glad we now have the chance to connect with you all. This AMA will serve as the final time I will address the Zeus departure from T1. Zeus was an integral part of our journey alongside owner Faker, Gumayusi, and Karya, helping restore T1 to its former glory. We are forever grateful for his contributions to the org. Zeus made a decision he felt was best for him, and we fully respect his choice. We wish him nothing but success in his future endeavors." So, we get into some of the questions. So, is it true that T1 couldn't agree to terms with Zeus to meet his demands of 2 billion won, as Han Yi, a Chinese streamer, mentioned? And Joe Marsh says, "This is not true. We were given the opportunity to match any offer. Additionally, the agent did not, we were never given the opportunity to match any offer. Additionally, the agent did not present any counteroffers to the proposals we had sent. Can you just show how much Zeus is getting paid by signaling with your fingers?" He says you'd have to ask Zeus, or better yet, try his agent if you can actually get him on the table, which obviously like a little shot at Zeus's representation and his agent and stuff. They ask, how much was Zeus's offer from T1? It would not be appropriate for me to disclose the specific details of Zeus's offer from T1. What I can share is what we aim to give each of our players the top salary in their respective position. With this goal as our foundation, we negotiated with all the players' agents, including Zeus's. Throughout the process, however, Zeus's agent did not provide us with a single counter proposal. When he visited our office on Friday, he openly stated that he had nothing to say, which struck us as unusual for someone whose role is to negotiate contracts. After signing the 3 players, we even submitted an additional proposal, despite knowing that rule number 1 of negotiations is not to keep presenting offers without a response. Yet again, there was no counter-proposal or clear communication from the agent. Nonetheless, in keeping with the aforementioned aim, we were willing to match any offer for Zeus. If the agent had communicated his client's specific desires from the beginning, this process could have been much smoother. So again, he's pointing a lot of fingers, pointing a lot of the blame at Zeus's representation. Seems like, most of the bad blood and ire and stuff is between T1 or Joe Marsh, maybe specifically, and Zeus's agent. Obviously, it doesn't seem like there's as many hard feelings with Zeus specifically. It's just at least the vibe that I'm getting from this thing. It's maybe diving a little too deep in, but whatever. How much was the difference in the offer amounts from T1 and Hanwha Life for Zeus? Again, in keeping with our aim of giving each of our players a top salary in his position, we were fully prepared to match any offer Zeus received. But unfortunately, we were not given that opportunity. The agent imposed an artificial deadline, claiming it was set by HLE. However, after Zeus made his decision to leave, we spoke with HLE, and they confirmed that no such deadline was ever established. And I know there's been some like tinfoil hats and stuff around Reddit and Twitter and everything. It's like, oh, just because HLE told you they didn't actually set a deadline, that doesn't mean that they necessarily did. Could HLE have lied? Are they being untruthful? Do they just want to, keep good graces and good relationship with T1? Are they trying to throw this guy's agent under the bus? Or did HLE really not set a deadline, and was Zeus and his team using that as like a negotiation tactic? Because that wouldn't be totally unusual either, and I don't really even know how good or bad of a thing that would be. So, in my opinion, someone is not being truthful in this situation. Having worked with HLE for many years, I trust their word regarding what was said. It's disheartening that such tactics played a role in the process, as we believe Zeus deserved transparency and fairness in making such an important decision about his future. And again, just because even if Zeus's agency told T1 that there was a deadline in place, or that HLE put a deadline in place, it doesn't mean that necessarily Zeus's agency would have told Zeus that. So just because T1 wasn't, say, even in the world where potentially T1 wasn't told the full truth, that doesn't mean that Zeus didn't know the full truth either. So I think that's maybe a little bit strange. I think people have kind of put those two things together. It's like what they're saying to T1 doesn't necessarily have to be what they're saying to Zeus. That actually wouldn't make total sense if that's what was happening, but who knows? This whole situation is so hairy, so complicated, so strange. I'm most curious about the exact details and process of Zeus' departure. When was the decision made? I'd also like to know how the other players reacted and what the atmosphere was like. This is a very good question. From our standpoint, Zeus made his decision on the first day of the free agency period. Throughout the time leading up to that day, we had to get the impression that we were getting closer to an agreement until the mood suddenly changed around noon that day. As for how the other players reacted in the atmosphere within the team, we believe those conversations should remain private out of respect for everyone involved. Okay, boring, lame, whatever. Those details, I don't know if they necessarily need to remain private. I think they would actually be pretty normal to just be like, our players really like Zeus. They were, sad that he was leaving. Like, that wouldn't be too weird to say. I don't know, whatever. That's what he says. Seems like very, very tight to the chest or whatever. How does it feel to let go of a true homegrown talent? In this context, true homegrown talent refers to Zeus, who rose from T1's youth team to the main roster. I wouldn't categorize Zeus' departure as letting him go. I do agree with that. We wanted Zeus to remain with T1 for many years to come and made every effort to make that happen. However, as is every player's right, he ultimately chose to leave. Naturally, we're all deeply disappointed by his decision. We believe that the environment we built at T1, the resources we provide, and the way we treat our players make this the best place in the world for a League of Legends player to thrive. While it's hard to see him go, we respect his choice and wish him the best in the next chapter of his career. I'm curious about the behind-the-scenes stories from the offseason involving Zeus and Doran. The stories around Zeus' departure is covered by the other answers. As for Doran, when we interviewed him, he said he had always admired T1 and that his favorite style of playing aggressively can be better suited on T1. On another note, we've always thought highly of Doran because of the sheer amount of practice he put in. When analyzing our opponents, he always stood out as the one who practiced the most. So that'll be very cool. Seems like he'll fit in very well with T1. I know people have some questions about that and are worried about that and whatever, but I don't know. I think you guys should be optimistic, T1 fans. Obviously, he's not going to be Zeus. He's going to be different. He'll be better in some ways, worse in some ways. We'll see. What do you think was the biggest factor in losing Zeus? The biggest factor in losing Zeus, in my view, was the influence of his agent and their agency. This particular group has a history of prioritizing financial gain over a broader perspective of what's truly best for the player. Their approach often overlooks key factors like team legacy, player development, and long-term career success. Unfortunately, the tactics and gamemanship used in this situation were not consistent with how professional agents typically operate. While the agent has since called to apologize, I believe that gesture was more about saving face than genuine sincerity. Actions speak louder than words, and their behavior in this matter revealed their true character. It's worth noting that T1 provided an environment where Zeus thrived, contributing to back-to-back world championships. We met all the criteria for a player of his caliber, both in terms of competitive success and career growth. This is the same agency that attempted to move Zeus to China last year for a higher payday, and it was only through Zeus' own initiative reaching out to Coma that he ultimately stayed with T1. This pattern of prioritizing financial incentives over what's best for the player's overall future is concerning. While we respect Zeus' decision, it's unfortunate that the influence of an agency played such a significant role in this outcome. How do you feel about after the breakup of ZOFKG? It's always tough when a chapter ends, especially one as legendary as this. Zeus, owner, Faker, Gumayusi, and Carey have not only been the greatest roster in T1 history, but also the greatest roster of all time in esports. What they accomplished together over the past 3 years has been nothing short of incredible, and it's been an honor to witness their journey. Zeus' decision to leave T1 is one I respect deeply. While it's sad to see him go, he will always have a home here at T1. Like every player who's been a part of this organization, he left an indelible mark on our history, and we'll always celebrate the memories we created together. The team has brought so much pride and joy to T1, to fans around the world. While their paths may now diverge, their legacy will live on forever. I'm immensely grateful for the moments they gave us, and I'll cherish them always. Thank you, Zeus, and thank you to this team for being more than just players. They've been family. Some more questions. Obviously, this thing is very, very long. There's a lot of text and everything here, but there is a lot of really, really interesting insight, and the info is very, very critical to this whole situation, and some really good answers. It's cool that Joe Marsh is going so deep into so many of these topics. Is there a significant difference in the size of the deal offered to Zeus by T1 and Hanwha? If given the chance, we would have matched any offer for Zeus, even if it was just for a one-year deal. We were told he wanted long-term security, and we were ready to work to make that happen. However, we were not given the opportunity to match any offers presented to him. So again, we're not even getting, he's not necessarily saying, hey, HLE offered more money or anything like that. Did T1 actually sit down at the negotiation table with Zeus? Was it that you couldn't retain him, or he chose not to? You had time to release exclusive articles but couldn't secure Zeus. We submitted multiple proposals during the process, but we never received a counter proposal from Zeus' agent. On Tuesday, we were told that both the agent and Zeus would come to T1 headquarters to finalize a deal. However, the agent never showed up and instead closed a deal elsewhere without ever sitting down at the table to negotiate with us directly. As for the article, it was published after Zeus had already made his decision. We knew how the T1 fandom shares Zeus and the ZOFGK roster, and we felt it was important to communicate the truth directly to our fans. Allowing Josh to speak with the reporter was a deliberate choice to prevent misinformation or internet rumors from spreading, which could have hurt Zeus and his family. Our intention was always to provide clarity and transparency for the fans who have supported us so passionately. Talk a little bit about how quickly Doran was signed. Could you share the direction T1 had in mind for the offseason? The goal is to bring back that roster, obviously. Was there any conflict between Zeus and T1 during the Stove League contract process? From T1's perspective, there was no conflict with Zeus during the contract process. Her frustration lies with his agent and how he handled the negotiations. Despite multiple proposals, the agent never responded with a counteroffer. When the agent visited our office in person, we anticipated he would bring a counterproposal to facilitate a dialogue. Instead, he had nothing to say, which struck us as odd. Even if their counteroffer had been something unattainable, like 4 billion won, it would have at least allowed for a discussion. The agent had assured us that he and Zeus would visit T1 HQ between 10 a.m. and noon to finalize a deal. However, they never arrived. At that point, Josh and Becker made the decision to drive out to meet and negotiate with Zeus and his agent in person, to no avail. Regarding Zeus' photos being removed with the decision signed with HLE, T1 no longer retains his rights. As such, we had to update our online platforms and facilities accordingly. They talk a little bit about the renewal of owner Gumayusi and Carrier. Talk a little bit more about Doran. Did issues arrive in Zeus' transfer due to the negotiation approach taken by his agent and player? Was that approach centered around creating pressure with a fixed deadline? Again, that's some stuff they've already answered. They started to talk about some of the same things kind of over and over again. If T1 was not lacking transfer funds compared to HLE, why was Zeus let go? And again, he's just going to be like, hey, the agent never countered a single proposal from T1 and never gave us the opportunity to match any offers. If the issue was strictly about money, the agent never communicated, give us XYZ and we will sign. As I mentioned before, we were told that they would come to our HQ in the morning to discuss things in person. However, they never showed up and instead signed a deal elsewhere, which does seem very, very, very strange. So I don't know. Obviously, this does seem very, very weird. They ask some more kind of questions about all that and stuff. But this is very in-depth. Like I said, there's a lot of information. If you guys want to read more into it, you should definitely check the rest of this out on FM Korea. There's links to it on the League of Legends subreddit and all that stuff. I did want to get a little bit into Zeus' agency statement as well, because in all of these things, there's always going to be two sides to every story. Obviously, T1 and Joe Marsh has their perspective, or the things that they want to say, the things that they want to put out, or the truth, or their truth, or whatever. But there's always going to be another side of this. T1's side does seem very, very, very strange. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense. It really makes no sense at all. And if it's true, then it explains why T1 is so like flabbergasted. It makes no sense why Zeus' agency wouldn't even, try and like throw out a number, throw out a ridiculous number, say, hey, this is what we want at this time or whatever. T1's literally saying, hey, like, we talked to them, we sent them offers, and they're just like pretty much ghosted us and never responded, which like that wouldn't make sense. That would just mean that T1 wasn't even considered, or T1 wasn't even an option or possibility for any amount of money. Like, if they're saying, oh, this agent plays hardball and wants to get huge paydays and wants to make a ton of money, like, it doesn't even sound like he tried to squeeze money out of T1. It just sounds like they wanted to leave T1. Like, so it really doesn't, something's not adding up. Something doesn't totally make sense to me. Something seems very, very weird and strange. So then we have Zeus' agency is releasing their official statement. Obviously, this is translated. So the TLDR that this Redditor puts out is, so yeah, we totally did everything by the book to avoid concluding a contract with T1, and somehow everyone else misunderstood us. Also, can you stop being mean to us online, which is pretty funny. So hello, this is The Play, the agency representing player Zeus. We sincerely thank all the fans who have continuously supported him. We also deeply apologize for the concerns caused to fans due to the recent issue regarding his transfer. Recently, Zeus transferred from T1 to Hanwha Life, and fans have been expressing various opinions regarding his transfer, respecting his wishes to avoid escalating disputes with his previous team. T1, which had been his close ally, our agency initially refrained from making an official statement on this matter. However, as the AMA session announced on the early morning of November 22nd contained factual inaccuracies and other misleading content, the agency decided to investigate the facts by consulting with both Hanwha Life and Zeus to issue an official statement. Our intention is to clearly communicate the facts to prevent misunderstandings and damage, and to sincerely convey the positions of both us and our agency. We hope that this statement will deliver the truth about Zeus, and it will stop any groundless criticism directed at him. We get into date, event, details of negotiation. It goes into a little bit of a timeline. We get the eventual summary and stuff, and then we get the detailed stance of the agency. So during the priority negotiation period before the 19th, the agency consistently engaged in good faith discussion with T1, even while emphasizing their desire to assess the player's market value in the free agency market. On the 19th, despite entering the free agency market, neither the agency nor Zeus agreed to any direct discussion with T1 before 10 a.m. or after 3 p.m. On the 19th, the negotiation with T1 continued constructively without considering overseas transfers. At 3 p.m., a 3 p.m. deadline was communicated to T1 per the request of Hanwha Life Esports. The negotiations ultimately concluded as T1 was unable to meet the terms by 3:30 p.m., leading to a termination of the talks. So again, the position of the agency and Zeus regarding the contract terms from the beginning of his professional career during the T1 training period, Zeus devoted himself exclusively to T1. He expressed his wish to remain with T1 out of loyalty and affection, even if it meant sacrificing better opportunities elsewhere. This was communicated clearly to the agency. During the 2023 free agent market, T1 presented contract terms that were unacceptable. The agency supported Zeus in exploring other teams while still leaving the final decision to him. However, he ultimately chose to pursue direct financial negotiating with T1, demonstrating his loyalty. Now, entering 2024, he acknowledged T1's legacy and agreed to negotiate under the condition he would prioritize a T1 re-signing if the terms were reasonable and matched offers from other teams. Despite this, T1 made offers that failed to reflect the player's contributions, particularly as a key team member in securing back-to-back World Championship victories. T1 claims the conditions were proposed to reflect a long-term vision for the player. However, the proposed terms were not objectively advantageous to Zeus, making it difficult for him to agree. The final terms proposed by the agency to T1, including monetary aspects, options, and duration, were not met by T1 in any way. Consequently, Zeus ultimately signed with Hanwha Life Esports under conditions more favorable to him. The belief that Zeus prioritized overseas transfer over T1 due to contract terms is entirely false. So we do have the negotiation counteroffers during that period. After receiving T1's initial proposal, the agency consistently conveyed its stance that it wanted to evaluate his market value during the free agency period. So they're saying like, hey, even if we're talking, whatever, we still want to see what we're worth. We want to see our value. That's very, very common in a lot of sports. I don't know how much of it is common with esports, but in traditional sports, we see people, testing the free agency waters all the time. That doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to come back to their original team, but it just means, hey, I want to see what kind of offers are out there. I want to see what I'm worth. And then obviously both parties have to do with that what they will. So that's at least a possible, thing. It's not totally crazy. The agency, prioritizing accurate market evaluation, chose not to make an immediate counteroffer, but rather to confirm his value in the free agent market before initiating further discussions. The agency's stance was that instead of making a hasty decision, it would prioritize protecting the player's rights by ensuring contract terms aligned with market standards. Despite not making counteroffers, negotiations in T1 were conducted earnestly. Even after the free agent evaluation, Zeus expressed his firm intention to remain with T1 if the terms were competitive. The claim the agency did not negotiate actively or was simply waiting for other offers is inaccurate. The agency negotiated continuously while also ensuring transparency about the free agent market evaluation process. The agency did not agree to any direct meetings with T1 before 10 a.m. or after 3 p.m. on November 19th. During the free agency period, the agency consistently communicated its intention to evaluate the market. On November 19th, the agency requested a deadline of 3 p.m. to finalize the negotiation process. Negotiation continued past the 3 p.m. deadline, but no agreement was reached to T1's inability to accept the proposed terms. So they're saying apparently they did have terms in place for T1, but T1 was not accepting them. It was emphasized that the 3 p.m. deadline was set upon Hanwha Life's request. The extended deadline was until 3:30, which was also not sufficient to finalize any agreements despite the ongoing negotiations. After the negotiations ended, the agency reached out to T1 to express regret and understanding regarding the situation. The agency refrained from making any additional public statements and instead choosing to handle the matter privately. The agency regrets any misunderstandings caused by accusations suggesting the situation was their fault. The free agent market operates under time-sensitive conditions, with decisions often needing to be made quickly. The agency emphasized that the decision to move forward was made solely due to market constraints and was not influenced by any personal grudges. The agency clarified that there was no agreements or proposals made regarding contract extensions, even though discussions continued until the deadline. Although there have been misunderstandings and incorrect information, we have prioritized explaining the key aspects of the situation. All our claims are based on verified communication decisions made between Zeus, Hanwha Life, and our agency. We aim to convey the facts clearly, express our regret for the misunderstandings with T1, and request an end to the negative public discourse and unnecessary controversy around this matter. With this statement, we have fully communicated the agency's position. We earnestly ask fans to respect both the agency and Zeus' stance and to refrain from any groundless criticism or unwarranted backlash. We also got this follow-up from Joe Marsh as well, where he says, we stand by what I said in the AMA and won't be commenting publicly on this any further. So both parties are kind of saying, hey, we're done talking about this, but also at the same time, both parties are saying very, 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 very different things. This is all getting so crazy. I think it's possible we could see more of this details come out, but like I said, T1's going to have their side, Zeus and Hanwha Life and his agency are going to have their side, and the truth, honestly, is probably somewhere in the middle, but obviously everyone's going to have their own take on things, their own, how things happen from their own perspective, but yeah, it's very crazy. Obviously, the two sides are not saying anything the same, and at the end of the day, somebody has to be lying or somebody has to be misconstruing things. Maybe they're both lying a little bit. Maybe they're both telling a little bit of the truth. I don't know, but this whole situation is so insane, so crazy, makes absolutely no sense. But this is the latest. This is where we're at with everything. So I wanted to, do my best to catch you guys up to speed. Obviously, this was a very, jargon-heavy video. But like I said, if you do want to check out any of those statements are out there by both Joe Marsh and by T1, by Zeus' agency. And do they really clarify the situation any better? Not really, but it does make this whole thing more insane, kind of more entertaining, kind of more sad to watch this all going on publicly. Like I said, trouble in paradise. People love T1. People love this T1 lineup. They don't want to see all this fighting and drama and craziness, but that's entertainment. That's esports. That's where we're at. But Also, we have the Holy by Sheep Esports giveaway going on right now. We're offering 1 year of Holy drink to anyone who orders with codes SE5 or SE10 right now. All you have to do is place an order with one of those codes before December 6th of 2024 to get signed up. So you still have plenty of time, and somebody's going to walk away with a year of Holy drink. SE5 is going to get you €5 off your first order. SE10 is going to get you 10% off your entire basket. So choose whatever works best for you and order some Holy today. Great tasting energy drinks that also just so happen to be healthier than the competition. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.